At this point in time, we all must be more or less familiar with the National Service Training Program, or NSTP, which aims to enhance civic consciousness and defense preparedness among the citizens. But how did the program start, and how did it get to where it is today? It all started in 1935 under the leadership of President Manuel L. Quezon. Soon after he rose into power, President Quezon passed Commonwealth Act No. 1, also known as the National Defense Act, in order to strengthen the military prowess of the Philippines. The act required all male college students to undergo 4 semesters or 2 years of military training in order for them to be reserve cadets in the event that national security was compromised. This went on for a few decades until August 8, 1980, where the act was amended and was replaced by Presidential Decree No. 1706, or the National Service Law, passed by President Ferdinand E. Marcos. Under this law, all citizens were required to provide national service to the country. What was this national service? Well, in the law, national service had 3 components. These components were military service, law enforcement service, and civil welfare service. And this law allowed college students to choose between any of these 3 components to carry out national service. A few years later, in 1986, President Corazon Aquino passed the Presidential Memorandum Order No. 1, which suspended all national service components except for military service. This became the Basic Reserve Officer Training Corps, which became effective that same year.
Then, in 1991, the Republic Act 7077, also known as the Citizen Armed Forces of the Philippines Reservist Act, was enacted by the 8th Congress of the Philippines under Corazon Aquino. This act provided organization, training, and utilization of reservists or citizen soldiers who were to assist the armed forces of the Philippines in times of conflict. The manpower for the reserve force includes the ROTC, World War II veterans, ex-officers, and retired officers of the armed forces of the Philippines. In 1995, under President Fidel Ramos, the implementing rules and regulations of RA 7077 modified the basic ROTC into the expanded ROTC program, inserting the military subject in the first curriculum year and any of the 3 components, military training, civic welfare, and law enforcement, in the second-year curriculum. Just like in the Army, there were issues of abuse and violence in the ROTC, endangering its implementation. The most famous case was that of Mark Wilson Chua, an engineering student from the University of Santo Tomas, whose body was found wrapped in a carpet and floating on the Pasig River. It has been said that he was a victim of illegal ROTC practices and that he was leading the protests against the ROTC program. Since then, the expanded ROTC program has been morphed into the National Service Training Program. On January 23, 2002, RA 9163, also known as the National Service Training Program Act, was amended and implemented in the school year of 2002 to 2003. With NSTP in place, college students were allowed to choose between any of its 3 program components: Civil Welfare Training Service, Literacy Training Service, and the Reserve Officer Training Corps.